Well, it's now October 18th. Weather's starting to change. Days are averaging mid 50s. Nights are averaging low to mid 40s. And detailing season, at least for me in Northeast Ohio, is coming to an end. I've spent all summer and spring playing with the Hybrid Solutions lines on my car, the wife's car. My friend's car is Challenger. And it's time for me to put the winter coat on the Camaro. Now, it's a three-step process. This is what I prefer for is what I consider the best possible coating for protection, durability, long lasting, etc. So I started with step one last night. My camera was dead, so I couldn't film any of it. The car had been rained on, was a bit dusty, so I started off with the ceramic 3-in-1 detailer and a very plush towel. Gave it a waterless wash. Went over the whole car, got it clean. I didn't bother with the streaks or the smears. I didn't really care much about them because I knew that I was going to be going over the whole car rather intensively with the ceramic polish and wax. You could say I've rediscovered this stuff since I did my friend's Challenger. I'll admit that once I got the one and done compound, the ceramic polish and wax kind of fell to the wayside, and I forgot how well it actually works for what it is. What I think the polish and wax is a mild polish, and I use it to clear up all the light swirls, miscellaneous water spots, and I did that last night. It took me 2 hours to do the whole car. It's just a touch dusty now, nothing I need to worry about. And I really, really rubbed it in. That's one thing you don't need to be afraid of, and you shouldn't be afraid of, is actually working the ceramic polish and wax. It's not that abrasive. It's abrasive enough to really clean the paint. I know on my car it's hard to tell because I always keep it pretty immaculate. But you can't see it on camera, but in my eyes, looking at it, anything that could be removed was removed, including the slight haze from using the Eurofiber pad and the more aggressive pads with the one and done. You know, the car looked great, and 99% of the people out there that are not detailers or detail oriented never saw what I did. But I saw that there was some very, very minor hazing from the aggressive pads and aggressive compound. So I took the ceramic polish and wax. I used the Speed 6 on the polisher, and I used a Lake Country Smart Pad, white, what they call a heavy polishing pad. This is the lightest, softest pad I have. Typically I use it for applying liquid and paste waxes because I personally don't like the super soft wax application pad. They're not firm enough. I don't feel they do as good a job as the slightly more dense, more firm polishing pads. So I went over the whole car. I used 4 dots, 4 pea-sized dots for the hood. And then once the pad was actually saturated or primed with product, I only needed 2 or 3 drops per panel. Most of the time it was 2, sometimes on the larger ones like the roof here, it would be 3 drops for half the roof. And I would work the polish until it was, I don't know if you want to say breaking down or if it was just simply being picked back up by the polishing pad. It wasn't a solid sheet of wax across the car. It was splotchy. It was invisible in some places except for some slight smears. But I worked it and worked it. And like I said, to just do a one-step polish and wax on the car took me over 2 hours. But the results, as you can see, with the reflection of the sunlight, the reflection of the LEDs, the car came out. This is as good as it's going to get, period. I did not consider the wax portion of the polishing wax. I was using it for the abrasive portion, the polish part, to get the car to where I wanted it so I could put the wax protection on. I know it says on the bottle to wait 24 hours before applying anything else. I finished last night about 9 p.m. It's now almost 1 o'clock, so it's been 15, 16 hours. Plenty of time for what my purpose is. My next step is the base layer of protection, and that's going to be the ceramic graphene paste wax. I'm going to use a white pad to apply it. I'm going to drop the speed down to about a 4 or 5 because I'm not trying to rub anything. I'm just trying to evenly and thinly coat the car. I'll do the whole car, give it 15, 20 minutes, whatever, so the chemicals and the protectants can bond or do their thing, whatever it is they do. And then I'll buff it off. The ceramic graphene paste wax is the only Hybrid Solutions wax that does not say on the bottle, wait 24 hours before applying a second coat or anything else. But I'm still going to give it at least, I'll try for 12. But depending on, that would mean waiting till tomorrow morning to do the final step of the flex wax. I don't know if I can personally wait that long, just me being me. So I might do it later this evening, probably about 5 or 6, maybe 7 o'clock when the wife's at work. And then once the layer of flex wax is on, the car will be done and prepped for the winter. Last winter, I did not drive it at all. I've put about 400 miles on it in 2023. Partially due to I didn't need to drive it because I had the wife's car. She wasn't working. But now she is, so I will probably, upon occasion, need to drive my car in the winter. So I just wanted to make sure I had the best possible, in my opinion, wax protection on it. So what I'm going to do now, put the camera down, apply the paste wax. You're not going to see any visual difference because the polish and wax made all the improvements that are going to be made. The ceramic graphene paste is just a protectant. It will be my base layer. Give it, I'd say at least 5 hours to set up, cure, hey, whatever it does when you buff it off. And then top that again with the flex. Once I'm done with the flex, assuming it's still light out, I'll pull it out into the sunlight and you guys can see the final product. If not, then I'll just do it in the garage under the LEDs. So, with that being said, I'm going to grab the polisher, the paste wax, and get started. See you in a while. Okay, I brought you back. All the wax has been applied to the car. This is just kind of a reminder of how little of this paste wax you need to use. Actually, you can see on the passenger side of the hood, you can barely see any. It's just a haze. That's the perfect amount. Any wax that you actually see is wasted because it's going to be wiped off by a towel. The towel's going to be washed and the wax goes down the drain. Yeah, I've got it a little heavy in some spots, and I tried to spread it as thin as possible. I only had to reapply wax to the pad, do the entire car about 4 times, and it was maybe like a pea-sized chunk at the most each time. So that can of ceramic graphene paste wax is probably going to last me a couple of years, easily. Even as small as it is. I included the front and rear glass because the graphene ceramic paste wax does excellent on glass as far as rain and dirt repellency. You can see, like here, it's a little thick. It's a little thick here. The roof has a decent amount on it. The rear pillar, quarter panel, trunk, like I said, you can barely see it. Anything you can see is waste, because once you remove the visible wax, the haze, what's left over, what's left is not measurable on the street. You'd have to go into a lab with all sorts of high-tech measuring devices because it's only a couple of molecules thick. That's all that's on the car. So to pile it on a 1/4 inch thick and then buff it off, you just might as well take your can and throw it in the trash because you've just wasted a bunch of it. You do not need that much. So I'm going to give it about 20-30 minutes. Give it time to do its thing. A little longer than normal because it's only about 50 some degrees out. And I'm not quite sure of the temperature range. I didn't read that they recommend using this at. I'll probably only give it about 2 hours, maybe, before I do the flex. But once I do the flex, then it will sit for 12 to 24 to let the flex cure. Now this stuff can get wet. I can take it out in the rain. Turtle Wax just says no chemicals for 24 hours. Meaning rain on is fine. Wash, don't do it because that involves car wash soap, chemicals, and they don't want anything interrupting the 24-hour cure. So I will be back when I'm done. Okay, the ceramic graphene has been buffed off. It's had it a couple hours to set up, and I can't wait any longer, so I'm going to put the flex wax on. Since I did a separate video on how I apply the ceramic spray coating and get great success, I figured I would do the same thing, just included in this video, with the flex wax. Now the flex wax, in my opinion, has more solids in it, more protectants, which is why Turtle Wax says you can use it as a drying aid or as a spray-on, rinse-off product. Now, in order for it to be able to do that, you would think, and it kind of makes sense, that it has more of the protectants in it to compensate for all that water for those two application methods. My preferred method is still dry, but instead of 1 to 2 full sprays per towel, I usually go maybe 2 half sprays, or in the case of the trunk lid, which I'm doing because I'm always showing the hood, and you're probably tired of seeing that. In the case of the trunk lid, I've done the hood, the roof, half the hood, half the roof, the top of the quarter on the driver's side, so the towel does have some flex wax in it. So for an area as small as the top of the trunk and the spoiler, I'm only going to use a half spray into the towel, and you can see that this stuff is actually thicker and has more substance to it. It will flash some, but not nearly as much as the ceramic spray coating did. Got the towel. Give it my half spray and start applying. Okay, you can see quite clearly that in comparison to the ceramic spray coating, there is a lot, the haze on the trunk lid is a lot heavier than the ceramic spray than with the Flex Wax. This is one of the reasons that with the Flex Wax, the damp wipe is basically required in order to remove it without streaking, smearing, or having to rub and build up your arms like Schwarzenegger. So I'm going to complete the car and I will show you the damp wipe when I'm done with that. For you, it'll be a couple of seconds. For me, it'll be about 15-20 minutes. See you in a few. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. I've got the hood, roof, and the quarters done. Tops of the quarters done, wiped off. Saved the trunk. As you can see, even after 15 minutes, there's still a lot of residue left on the trunk. Like I said, I believe that's because the Flex Wax is made with more active ingredients due to the fact that it can be used with a large amount of water and still work. So here I'm using, basically it's the Sham Wow that you see advertised on TV as a super absorber. The only use I've ever found for it is it works pretty well for the damp wipe on the Turtle Wax hybrid solutions. And the second thing, this is advertised as a Meguiar's water magnet. It's supposed to be a car drying towel, but as you can see the edges there, it's pretty thin. It just doesn't have the bulk to absorb the amount of water from drying a car. Even if it's a well-waxed car and you've flood rinsed it so there's barely any water. This towel is just not thick or heavy duty enough to absorb all that. However, as the dry buff following the damp wipe, it excels. The little bit of water residue that's left from the Sham Wow is easily sucked up by this water magnet, and it leaves the surface completely streak and smear free. So I'll give you the quick demo, shut you back down. Then once I get all the Flex Wax off the rest of the car, I've got to back it up about 3-4 feet so I can do the same process to the front end, which I just can't get to with it in the garage. It's like a foot between the nose of the car and the wall. I just can't fit my large butt in there. So here's how we remove the Flex Wax. As you can see, there's a nice amount of water. Being a cooler day, I don't have to move as fast. That water has broken up the residue that's not adhered to the car. And I'm going to go over it now with the water magnet, sop that up or buff that off, whatever you want to call it, and the trunk will be perfect. A slow speed, no real pressure, just enough for the towel to soak up the water. I do have one high spot left, I see it. Okay, and that's why I always recommend a final wipe once you're done. But if you're real careful, this water magnet will eliminate any missed high spots. You just got to take your time and watch what you're doing. So I'm going to finish removing this from the rest of the car, back it out, do the front end, and we should have more than enough sunlight. Although it's not going to be direct sunlight, it's still very bright outside. You'll be able to see the gloss and reflection on the car from the process, the 3-step that I just did. Well, here it is, all but the front end. I still have to polish that out. This is as good as it's gonna get. 3-step from Turtle Wax, an intense polishing with the ceramic polish and wax. Deep cleaned the paint, removed all old wax, removed any swirls from the heavier buffings it got earlier this summer. The paint, like I said, this is as good as it's gonna get. I gave it about 15-16 hours to cure instead of the 24. Although, to be honest, I wasn't worried about the cure time for the polish and wax. I was using it for the polish portion of the product. The wax part of it was not my preferred protection layer. So if it didn't cure properly, that was not a big deal to me. And like you can see, I'm losing the light. There's no direct sunlight. But you can see how crisp and clear the gloss and reflections are. Back end, you can see the trees across the street in the reflection. And then after that, it was protected with the ceramic graphene paste wax. It was given about an hour or so, and all that was topped off with the flex wax. So this car right now at this moment is the best it's going to look. And with those two latter products, the ceramic graphene paste and the flex wax, this is as protected as I can make it from the upcoming Northeast Ohio winter. I'm going to pull it up a little closer to the garage so I have better light from the LEDs. The only question is the tires. I've got graphene acrylic tires shine on them. Several coats actually, but it's been a couple of months since I applied it. They're still a deep, rich black. They're not shiny. They look like brand new tires. So I think I'm going to skip that. The rims have a fairly fresh coating of the flex wax. So that's the results. In my opinion, this is the best way to make a good-looking car look its best. And as far as people who have to deal with winter, snow, and all that other craziness, this is probably the single best way to protect it for as long as possible through those winter months. I don't expect it to bead water like brand new come February, March, April. But from past history with the flex wax, I do expect it to still be there, at least taking some of the brunt, which will make spring cleanup so much easier. Well, that's all I have for today. I'm going to finish up the front end, go in, edit the videos, and post it up. Let me know what you think. Well, it's all done. Front end's done. Windows are done. Like I said, Tires look pretty darn good as is, so I left them alone. I'm adding this last part because it's too funny not to share. And this is a 2013 Chevy Camaro. It has 166,500 miles on it. I just went for a quick cruise to see if I could find some sunlight to show you the finish in. And when I was outside of the car, a man approached me and says, "Real nice looking Camaro. Is that a 23?" When I told him it was a 2013 with 166,000 plus miles on it, he called bullshit. He refused to believe me until I opened the driver's door, showed him the odometer and the VIN plate in the door jamb. After that, he didn't have a thing to say. He was lost for words and speechless. So it just goes to show you that people can be fooled as to how new your car is if you keep track of it. I've had them think it was a 17, 18, 19 before, but never a brand new car because he said it looks like he just rolled it off the lot. To me, that is one of the largest compliments a detailer can get. See y'all next time.